around. What do they do if nobody shows up?
We've had a few meetings that they didn't have enough up here to even have a meeting.
I thought that they got storm warnings out till 9 o'clock. I thought maybe they.
Does anybody see the minutes from the last meeting we had?
Then are you the official recorder, or you just do it for yourself?
Just to know for myself.
Oh, okay.
I give people links to it so they can go back and listen to the meeting. If you give me your email address, I'll give you send you the video. Just write it on the side here, I guess. And your name.
No, that's just the case. I'm not here. I feel like we need it. Yeah.
I'm old school. AOL.
Okay.
Can you read that? Break wheel?
John Humes.
Yeah.
I'm related to Humes.
Who's that?
This was a long time ago, way back in Kentucky. In fact, my granduncle was named George Humes, and he was murdered. 1899. He laid in the front parlor of the house, and my great aunt was in the backyard giving birth to twins. This is in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
That's where my nephew went down there to work for Schmuckers down there. He works at Orville, but he took a transfer down there. They opened up one of these factories that made these round peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Okay. Schmuckers makes. He got that plant started and come back up here. Now he just took a transfer to, you ain't gonna believe this, they gave him a choice of Kansas, back down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, or New Orleans. Now he takes.
I'll send you a couple of these newspaper reports that were going all around Nashville and Kentucky at the time.
He takes New Orleans or Folgers coffee because Smuckers owns it. He said, I ain't living in no town with no sea level. Are you crazy? Just waiting for a dike to break or something. After they had that Katrina.
Yeah, that's interesting. For John, okay. The family wound up moving the kids up to Columbus, Indiana, just south of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
My dad's grandfather, Mingo Junction, down on the Ohio River.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, that's the only place I know is from. I don't know.
All right, it is 6:01, so we will call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum present, as 4 out of 5 members are present. We're going to take care of a couple housekeeping items before we get to the one item of business that we had. I will mention one thing to everyone here. There are 4 of us. It will take a vote of 3 to approve whatever motion is made. There are 5 members, one of our new members, Mr. Streb, could not make it tonight. So 3 members to pass anything is what is required, regardless of how many people are here. With that, I would ask that the roll call be done.
I'll go ahead and do that for you. Ms. Boycian?
Here.
Ms. Clemens?
Here.
Mr. Mahowson?
Here.
Mr. Josh?
Here. Minutes 4 out of 5. The next item is voting of officers. I'm the chairman of the board, but we usually have a vice chair, someone who can serve in this role when I'm not here. And I would like to make a nomination of Ms. Boyajian to serve as the vice chairwoman of the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I think we should do a roll call of the roll. A yes vote would be in favor of her serving in the role as vice chair.
Mr. Zollinger?
Yes.
Mr. Mahowson?
Yes.
Ms. Clevenger?
Yes.
Ms. Boycian? Unanimous.
Yes. Well, congratulations. I do not believe a swearing in is necessary.
Correct.
She's already been sworn in as a board member. That's all that's necessary. This is an internal thing we do. Okay, thank you. Congratulations. And we will now go to the approval of the minutes. And one item on the agenda, we need to fix a typographical error. There were the minutes of the last meeting we had where we had a quorum was actually March 13th, 2019. That February 26th meeting did not have a quorum. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 13th, 2019 meeting. Yes, our second. Our motion and a second, I'm sorry.
I make a motion to approve the change from.
Second.
In a second.
Second.
Done?
We'll call the roll for all those in favor, say yes.
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 Go ahead and call the roll, okay?
Ms. Allinger,
Yes.
Mahausen,
Yes.
Clevenger,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes.
Okay, those minutes are approved. Now we'll move to the first item of business, and go ahead and Paul, go ahead and tell us what that is, and then once the application is read off, any person who wants to speak in favor of the application, we'll have them sworn in, and then they can speak.
Our application is zoning board of appeals number 2019-2, Russell Schweitzer III. Property is 732 Penny Street Southeast in North Canton. Mr. Schweitzer is requesting a variance pursuant to North Canton Codified Ordinance Section 1159 to construct a second floor addition and second floor porch over its driveway.
Okay, if you are going to be speaking tonight, either in favor or against or whatever position, I'd like you to please stand and raise your right hand so that the court reporter can swear you in.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
All right, thanks. You can be seated. Just so you know, the court reporter, you're under oath, but this is going to be more of like a conversation. You're going to talk with us, and we're going to ask questions. Just it's important that we do everything audibly. Yes, no, I don't know are appropriate. Shaking of the head or nodding makes the court reporter's job a lot harder. So just try to make sure we're verbal with our conversation. It's also important that we not talk over one another. You'll have every opportunity to explain your position or what or respond. We're not here to say gotcha or cut you off. So with that, anyone who wants to speak in favor of the application, please come forward. And you can start by just stating your full name and address for the record.
My name is Russ Schweitzer III, 732 Penny Street Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. As I understand it, the items in dispute are solely the setback to the south or rear of the property. I understand it is insufficient, according to North Canton Code, to make changes to the property. I'm trying to expand my family home to allow for an expansion of my family. I'm getting married in a little over a month and a half, and my fiance and I plan to have children. Currently, my father lives with me. That is in accordance with my grandfather's will, that he be allowed to live and stay at that house for the rest of his life. And I'm abiding by the terms of that will. I cannot expand my family in the existing home. It is currently a 3-bedroom house. The majority of the bedrooms, 2 of which are on the main floor in the existing ranch home that was built in 1957. The old master bedroom measures 11 by 12. The second bedroom measures 7 by 10. So it is a small house, as it were. My fiance has a 6-year-old son, so for us to accommodate a nursery, we would have to either modify the existing home to get rid of living space to allow for that, or expand the existing home, or move. The conditions present to this are unique to this corner lot. The lots behind us or beside us both have full setbacks in their backyard. Due to the nature of being on a corner lot, the house behind us only has a 22-inch setback to the, or 22-foot, setback from our house to their property line. And the one beside us, their setback goes to the other side of the property behind us.
Excuse me, sir, if you wish, I know that you have some illustrations, and if you will let Terry there know, he can scroll to those if you like. I'll assist you.
I was just about to move on.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
These issues were not created by myself, nor my grandfather who built the house. This house was originally built in Plain Township in 1957. The city of North Canton annexed this entire allotment in 1967. We also had an addition built, my grandfather did, with a master suite and a second garage in 1979, which was approved by the city of North Canton. This addition will not adversely affect the rights of nearby property owners. In fact, it will improve their property values. It will not adversely affect public health, safety, or general welfare. It is consistent with the general spirit and intent of the ordinance in question. And it is the minimum to afford relief to my family.
I want to make sure if we grant a variance, that we are doing, we're granting a variance that would be necessary. Now, you mentioned the rear, the south side. I believe that is the side where there's the back of the house is 22 feet from the property line.
That is correct.
And that setback is now 40 feet under R70 zoning.
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any other areas where the property is non-conforming from the city's standpoint?
There is. Back to that rear yard setback, however, there is a deck expansion that is proposed that will encroach into that rear yard setback even further than the existing house. And based on the plans submitted, it appears that deck would reduce that setback to approximately 18.5 feet from the 40-foot requirement that we mentioned earlier. Now, in regards to the other required yard setbacks, the front yard, it appears this parcel was plotted before July 1st, 1989, which would require a 50-foot setback on the front. Now, this parcel is further unique in that the wider portion of the parcel fronts Penny. So when I'm talking about a front yard, we do have a picture of the site plan up there, and Penny is on the bottom, towards the bottom of the page. That is showing the 34-foot towards the narrowest part.
Is that was a question. Why is 134? Why is 40? Is that because Penny's curving and it's narrower there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's the front.
Yes, sir.
Front yard, according to the zoning, is,
Right.
is the Penny side.
Exactly.
Right. And you're saying that should be 50 because it was plotted before 1989?
That's right, ordinance 99-89.
And we're okay on the sides because it's 5 feet or 15 total either way, so we're okay on the side yards.
For the section of the ordinance that talks about side yards and establishes it, we are, but it goes on further for the corner side yard. In this circumstance, it doesn't show here. Actually, if we could go to the GIS, Terry has a Stark County Auditor's GIS, will give us an aerial photograph of what's being considered tonight. And those numbers are just out of my view, 9204470. parcel we're considering the variance for. So if you see there where the cars are parked, that by ordinance, that is the side yard. That would be a corner side yard abutting a front yard. The ordinance stipulates when that occurs, we have to maintain a front yard for that side yard.
So that should be 50 feet also.
Exactly.
Okay. So we're really looking at variances for the rear, front, and the side that is to the east.
That's correct.
The side to the west is okay.
As one of the call. That's correct.
What about, one question I have is the garage door that's facing Penny, there's no driveway there. Is there any issue with that, the existing garage door?
If that truly is a garage, the ordinance does require a driveway.
What are you doing with that garage door that's there with the driveway?
That current garage houses my grandfather's 1979 Trans Am. It is a survivor show vehicle, and it does not come out of that garage but rarely. So it does not come out enough to mark the yard. It only comes out on sunny days when the ground is dry.
So that's gonna stay with the renovation,
That's correct.
okay? Is the entire, the other part of the exterior, the roof and the siding, is that all gonna be updated to be uniform?
The siding will be removed and put half bricks up there so we do not have to set back the interior walls and lose interior space. The entire second floor that's going to be new will be bricked up so it'll have one uniform look to it. I will try to match the brick as close as I can so it does not present an obvious contrast.
Okay. These other properties around here, Mr. Van Gundy, they look like they're not conforming either to the current ordinance. Am I wrong on that? Or
I believe you're correct in that.
is there he did mention the stair that would be making it, it'd be encroaching on that 22 feet by another 3.5 feet or so. Is there a way to construct that so you weren't encroaching into that setback any further? Or is there,
I was putting it beside the house to sit over top of the existing walkway to the rear of the house and to send that stair to where it goes right to the entry door, the van door into the garage. Any other direction, I'm either going to be encroaching upon my driveway, blocking a garage door, or I'm going to be going ahead and riding over top of my yard to make it difficult to maintain my yard.
For what it's worth, the commercial building codes would require a stair from that deck. On the residential codes, that stair is not required for the means of egress.
Is that needed?
It is not a requirement.
any other questions?
What is the width of the portion that wraps around to the back of the house? The deck, the width of the deck?
The width of the deck,
Yeah, where the stairs are.
the stair width itself, or,
This portion.
I'm sorry, let me see, can I approach?
This portion.
This,
No, this width, I'm assuming that's just the width of the stairs.
that's just the width of the stair, yes. And I only expanded it to that to allow for the stair.
any clarification on the variance for the front yard. Indicated there was a variance required for the front, side, and rear.
That's correct.
So how is the front yard, since this deck is not past the front of the home, the front setback is 34 feet. So that's existing non-conformance?
Right, with the existing nonconformance, the ordinance does stipulate that we cannot expand the nonconforming use.
Okay. Then I also have a question with 1159.03B that, well, let me ask a question first. The footprint of this house isn't changing other than the deck being added. The footprint of the house isn't changing, isn't being enlarged,
That's correct.
except for the area where the deck is.
That is correct.
So in reading 1159.03B, non-conforming use of land shall not be physically enlarged, increased, extended, or relocated to a part of the lot that was not occupied by the use at the time it became non-conforming. So is the intent of that ordinance that you don't expand the footprint of the house, or just in general, the statement physically enlarged? Meaning, and my point being, this is not gaining any area above the footprint of the house that was existing. It's going vertically. So I would ask for clarification on that as far as just the general term physically enlarged. Does that cover also the second floor? I'm sorry, expanding vertically.
That's a very good point. I struggled with the same thing. And just even after this has come up, I was also looking at the 1159.03C as well. That talks about a little bit of a different aspect of the project, but it appears in that B in particular, there is some room for interpretation for that expansion, particularly if it's saying any, find that word. So the part that says or relocated to a part of the lot that was not occupied by the use at the time it became non-conforming. So the C goes on to talk about non-conforming use of structures. And a non-conforming use of an existing structure may extend.
This is a conforming use, though. That's referencing the use of the structure. It's still a residential or
R7.
70.
Right.
So it's not change of use.
Right. Yeah, so there's, in that regard, where I was headed with that is if the fact that it's too close to the street, it's not supposed to be there. So, yeah, if we're looking at it as simply a residential use, then that's correct.
Okay. Now, is a deck considered an occupiable part of the structure?
It is occupiable, it's non-habitable though. So basically, you're not living there, but you can't occupy that space.
Okay.
It generally is more of the accessory use of the residential, and generally not sort of getting away from the zoning codes, getting into the residential code of Ohio. We're talking about accessory use as opposed to the primary use. Reclassifying it in a different occupancy classification.
I think you're looking for that type of interpretation where it's not kind of clearly worded. You look towards what harm this may cause others, like the neighbors, if, say this, if you're concerned about the structure and you have a deck and whether or not that's part of the structure, say, would a second floor deck that went out further and closer to, say, your neighbor's master bedroom. In that situation, perhaps that could cause some discomfort, frustration for a neighbor if you entertain them on the deck. But if indeed you had sufficient clearance, it didn't appear that it would cause harm to another in the spirit of zoning, perhaps. That wouldn't be as important characters.
What are you gonna do with the deck?
We're going to use it for barbecuing, sitting out in the summertime, entertaining family and friends.
That's a family room area that's adjacent to that deck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're going to call it a sunroom, adding a lot of light to that room. But yeah, it'll be, basically an outdoor appendage to that room to allow for grilling and, recreational.
When did you buy the property?
I inherited the property through a trust
Okay, when was that?
on my grandfather's death in 2012.
Okay, were you aware of these zoning restrictions when you purchased it?
I was not.
Just a quick question about the existing garage door and the lack of a driveway. Do you know when that driveway was removed?
There was never a driveway put in.
Thank you.
Was that put in before the city was, before it was annexed into North Canton? Or,
No, that was part of the 1979 addition to the house. The city annexed in 67.
and the city approved that?
Yes, sir. I have the original plans with me.
One thing that is uncertain, this zoning ordinance was amended in 2007, so I don't know if that driveway requirement existed when the addition was placed.
Sounds like it, yeah, it sounds like it wasn't, or they didn't care, they approved it. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Schweitzer?
Yes.
Anybody? No, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Anybody else wish to get up and speak with regard to this request?
My name is John Humes. I live at 819, the house right across from the driveway. And all the houses around here are ranches. Now, this second story is going to look down at everybody's bedrooms. Because a lot of them, the bedrooms are in the front of the houses and stuff. And by the time they get done, they're going to be over 4,000 square feet of living space. Every house in the neighborhood is about 1,100 to 1,200 square feet. It's just ridiculous. See that white car there? Sat there for 3 years. 3 years sat in the same spot. I called the city. They said, put a sheet on it or put a cover over it. So he throws a sheet over it. Sit there with 4 flat tires. Every day I gotta look out the window. There's this rusty old car sitting there. It's ridiculous. And this basement in this house is a full, half of the basement is totally a family room. And it's got a kitchen and a full bathroom in the basement. All that stuff was snuck in there between 1979 and now. It's don't even show on the auditor's site because it was snuck in there. It's leased for about a 18 by 40 family room and kitchen combination. And then on the other side, it wasn't finished, they put a bathroom in there. Plus there's a laundry room. Now you tell me what something needs with 3 kitchens, 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like, sir, you were in the house at one point?
Oh, I've been in the house several times.
When's the last time you were in there?
Well, the old man died about 2012, so probably sometime that year.
Okay. Anything else?
Quick question, parcel 9200508, is that not a 2-story structure?
Yeah, it's a 2-story. It was built there, and I think they had to build it because of the way the lot was so small or
So,
something.
but to your point, that these are all single-story ranches.
Yeah, but there's no windows on that side, you know, I mean, between the houses. That house there has no windows. Now, they even went and put windows in the side of the house, on this side that's closest to that house, on the upstairs. I mean, I don't know, that had to go through zoning somehow, or other than on the house out there. You know, I don't know when it was built, it was built before 1979, I don't know, you'd have to check on the auditor's site to see when it was built.
Zoning is not going to mandate windows or not windows inside.
What's that?
Zoning is not going to mandate windows or not having windows inside the house.
No, but I mean, I guess as a courtesy, they put the windows on that side because that was a ranch house. They built that house before they put that addition on this house. So they'd be looking right down in the bedroom windows from a two-story house. I don't know how that guy's zoning, you know, I would like to say I wasn't there then. That's one of the few two-story houses in the whole neighborhood.
Not that it has a bearing, but is I want to say abandoned vehicle, is the vehicle that is not running still there?
Probably got a lien on it. Can't get rid of it. His dad's a beauty when it comes to not paying his bills.
Find this.
Let's keep it what's relevant.
As I say, that's why it's there.
That's just not something we're gonna consider.
Oh, I know that, I know, as I say. You know what I knew. You were okay with that, I guarantee you.
Auditor website indicates that home was built in 1972, which required
The two-story home?
Yes.
The only point there was it's not only a two-story house.
There is some other, maybe, yeah, there is a couple more two-story houses, but there's about maybe 3 duplexes at the very most. But they were built as duplexes.
People what? What did you just say?
There's about 3 houses that are duplexes, but they were built as duplexes. They were never converted to duplexes.
Any other questions?
This is just totally ridiculous. I'm up here because I don't know what happened to all the rest of the people who got letters. Most a lot of them's old, and the letter's not very explanatory, so they didn't really know what kind of addition he's putting on there. They didn't know he's putting another house on top of a house.
Okay, well, I don't know, it doesn't look like anybody else showed up. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I have to say, you know, some people just put it off as, you know, the way the letter reads, you can't put a porch on there, and all he needed was a variance for it. In addition, they had no explanation. I mean, if they didn't drive up here and see it, they don't know what addition he's putting on it.
You know, that's what the purpose of a public meeting is for. I mean, it's all here.
I don't know why I showed up. I don't know why they didn't show up.
Yeah, I don't know either. All right, anything else?
No, that's
All right, thank you, sir.
And I did talk to 3 of the neighbors who came in before the meeting and reviewed the documents that we had here. Most of which seemed to really only had a concern that once the applicant moves on and their future owners do, they didn't seem to be concerned with the initial use, that is, they're expanding it for the family.
Yeah, and that's something we have to consider is not just who lives there now, but who would live there in the future. Anybody else?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. I don't know if I follow the chain of the expansion. Is the garage to the left, I don't know what direction that is, where the car is stored? Was that the latest addition, or?
That was the addition from 1979, as I understand. There was a 2-story addition. It would be to the west of that. That would be the square-shaped roof you see there.
And wouldn't it have been common sense that they require a driveway? I don't understand how that slipped by. Again, you're changing the elevation of the property when you add that addition, the two-story addition actually. Anyway, you expand the entire footprint of the property to a two-story, you're going to exacerbate the obvious shortcomings of the setbacks. The front yard, the backyard.
It doesn't expand the footprint.
You're going to make it more noticeable that it fails to meet the setback requirements. Both front yard, backyard, and that addition that was done in '79, you said that looks like it almost leaked from one roof to the adjoining roof tops. None of you would want this going on in your neighborhood. We seem to have a problem with corner lots up here, as I pointed out to you on the swimming pool here fiasco a few months ago.
And is this your neighborhood?
Mr. Fox?
You're subject to cross-examination by giving direct testimony, so I'm asking, is this your neighborhood?
You know it's not.
And so it's not, so you're not impacted by this?
I am impacted.
How are you
Please,
impacted by it?
you're not part of the commission here.
I'm,
You're just to provide legal guidance.
that's correct. And you're subject to cross-examination. I'm permitted to ask questions for the board. I'm asking how you're impacted by this.
These are not legal questions. This is for the commission to ask questions.
If you're not impacted, your testimony's not.
I am impacted.
Please.
I am impacted how our zoning code
I'm
is interpreted.
asking how.
Because if you relax and give variance after variance, everybody comes up here, it becomes a status quo.
So you're not impacted by this variance?
I am impacted, Mr. Fox.
That's my question. You have to drive out of your neighborhood. Look for the.
Mr. Fox, we understand what you're saying.
Listen, no interrupting, okay? Court reporter's trying to take everything down. So everybody finish what you're saying and then let the other person talk.
We all know what's driving this. Mr. Fox tries everything he can to tangle me up, to harass me. This is not the line of question he should be posing. He's here to provide legal advice on the law. You're not part of the judgment and the vote. So please.
What I am part of is legal counsel and can state whether or not this board should consider your testimony. And because you're not impacted by this, my recommendation is that the board do not consider.
Oh, I know you can say that.
Okay, that note is, that's noted. But I will let, Mr. Osborne, I'm going to let you talk and say your piece, and then, we'll give it the consideration we want to, so go ahead.
So look at the picture up there. You're going to expand the rest of the house to two-story, further showcasing how large the property is, the structure is on the lot. Why don't we bend over to give more variances and more variances? Why aren't we upholding our zoning code as it's written?
I'd like to say that we aren't granting variances after variances. We've been in meetings where we haven't granted a variance, so I don't quite understand your statement there.
Thank you for your opinion, Mr. Levenger. You certainly gave one 2 months ago, but anyway, that doesn't have any bearing on this one. But again, you've pointed out, what is it, 4 variances they're asking for here? And I don't know if you've even considered the no driveway entrance to the house. If they desperately needed more living space, convert that garage to living space. That wouldn't impact the visibility of the house in the neighborhood one iota. So I don't know how we can continue to just bend over backwards, as I think Mr. Zollinger said. This will impact succeeding families who own that property. You go ahead and create a vast amount of living space, there's no telling how they'll eventually use that living space. They may subdivide it into a duplex for all we know, I don't know. But please, maintain our zoning code. This is a perfectly livable house that's already been expanded once, and I don't know how they got by. They were given variances back then, obviously, when that addition was made. So, don't change the culture of the neighborhood. Don't let these poor families wake up and wonder what in the world has the city allowed to take place here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schweitzer, do you have anything, I will give you an opportunity to respond to what's been said. You are the applicant with the burden of proof here, so I'm going to let you have final say on, and be able to rebut or react to whatever has been said. Go ahead.
All right, first off, I want to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions and follow up to some of the stuff that was brought up by the two individuals who are dissenting.
Does anybody have any follow-up questions?
In speaking with your other neighbors, has there been any negative conversation about what you'd like to do?
None whatsoever. I made a point to talk with my neighbor to the setback problem where my stairs are going to go. And he has no problems with me doing this. None of my other neighbors apparently have a problem because they have not shown up. But I made sure to address him particularly because that set of stairs would be coming closer to this property. If you notice, the complaint about the windows looking down into people's bedrooms, the only property where we'll be looking down into is that neighbor's property, and the living space is going to be significantly high enough that their roof is going to obscure their windows because their windows are high on their wall, and they are short windows. As far as the concerns about who's going to be dealing with this house if I decide to move on, it is my intent to pass this down to my children and grandchildren. I have no intents of selling this house. It's built by my grandfather. It's been in my family its entire existence, and I'm making it livable into the future for the purpose of living out the rest of my life.
What about the basement? Is there a full basement down there that you can utilize? Or?
It's not, the height of the basement is approximately 6.5 to 7 foot to the drop ceiling. It has a dry kitchen in it. There are only 2 kitchens in this house. The main floor kitchen is a 1950s kitchen that if you put more than one person in there, you're tripping over each other all the time because it's little more than a galley kitchen. The downstairs kitchen, like I said, is a dry kitchen. There is no plumbing or piping to that whatsoever. It has a stove, it has a refrigerator, and that's it, really. As you said, half of it is finished. My grandfather had that done a number of years ago. In order to accommodate a bedroom down there, we would need to level floors because they're currently sloped for a concrete floor basement, sloped to the drain. There's a lot of uneven and wavy surfaces due to that sloping to try to force water to run off. It's primarily a dark room, and it's not really set up for a good bedroom for a child because it does not have a lot of light.
Do you have any questions?
Just a couple more from me. In looking a little bit more deeply into the cross sections through this home has dormers on the what I would consider third floor. And it's not. It's considered right now attic space. unfinished. But it could potentially be a third floor, an occupied third floor for a bedroom, giving this even more of an imposing view by the neighborhood. I need to ask for clarification one more time on whether we are evaluating this against 1159, an expansion, whether that is valid or not valid. In the literal interpretation of, I think the term is physically enlarged. That makes a big difference for me. Otherwise, we're reviewing this for a variance for setbacks for the deck. Otherwise, there are other setbacks being violated.
You mean violated more than they already are?
Correct. They're existing.
Is the second floor, is that going to be a vaulted ceiling second floor, or is there an attic space up there?
The section above the east garage will have a vaulted ceiling. Because it is a sunroom, it faces the east. I will have a lot of windows, and I will have 6 skylights in there to allow for heat to rise and make it a comfortable room. We chose to make that a vaulted ceiling instead of extending the attic over top of that.
The second floor addition on the east side is this sunroom.
Correct.
Which would have scissor truss vaulted ceiling. The remaining of the second story would be
Attic.
framed flat ceiling with a potentially occupiable third floor where the dormers are.
We require that space for storage. My dad has a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff because we both developed lives outside of this house and moved back into the house. We still have a number of things from my grandparents, his parents, and my fiance has also developed a life outside of this, so she will be moving some of her belongings into the house. So the attic space will be taking up at least for the next 20 years. Put the dormers on there to give the house a little bit of character, to make it look presentable to the neighborhood, and to allow a little natural light into the attic so I could use the attic without having to turn lights on every time I went up there.
To clarify on your request, the intention was to have the addition, the complete addition, considered as a variance. So we'd already talked about 1159.03. We should also look at 1159.04 that talks about additions and moving. That's introduced with a non-conforming building or structure may continue to be used or occupied by a use permitted in the district in which it is located, so long as it remains otherwise lawful and does not constitute a public nuisance, subject to the following provisions. Parent A is additions and moving. A non-conforming building or structure shall not be added to, enlarged, or moved unless the additions or parts moved is made to conform to the regulations of the district in which it's located. It seems the intent of the zoning code is it does not want any expansions, or if we were to read on, it does talk about restoration of damaged buildings or structures in those cases. So, and as I read these, it does not give me the authority to grant a permit for this project and would require a variance by the board.
Okay, and by the nature of enlarging the structure without qualification.
Right.
All right, anything else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time again.
Can I come back up and add? You allowed him to
Yeah,
come back up?
Briefly.
Okay.
And please don't repeat yourself.
I will. Mr. Van Gundy brings up a very good point about 5904. A non-conforming building or structure shall not be added to or enlarged or moved unless the addition or parts moved is made to conform to the regulations of the district is located. That says it all right there. You can't do this because you can't undo all the current non-conforming problems you already have as it is. And then when you talk about restoring, if in case of it's damaged, B3 says such restoration shall not cause a new nonconformity. You have a nonconformity and you're expanding that nonconformity.
That provision is not applicable here, because this is not a damaged building.
It's the whole mindset though of
Liz,
what the
interrupt
code.
me. Don't interrupt me. You're making her job hard. B is not applicable here. It's not a damaged structure, so we're not considering that. A, we have to think about. B is not applicable.
I understand, Mr. Zollinger. I'm just saying, B defines
I don't care about
the mentality of and the purpose of the code.
Okay,
All right.
I understand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As it relates to A is the reason that Mr. Van Gundy can't issue a permit. And the very reason the applicant is here to ask for the variance.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get into. That's how I want to start my thoughts on this is we're here to grant changes to the city code. That's the power we as a board have, where we have special circumstances that exist that we think might warrant that. We don't take that lightly. We don't grant variances willy-nilly. We're no rubber stamp up here. You can look at our past decisions and see that. We take this very seriously. We're not an elected board. We're not city council. We're appointed. We're volunteers. And so for me to change what elected officials have put in place is a serious undertaking, and I don't take it lightly. Now, and there are very specific criteria we have to follow to grant a variance. We can't just do it because we like somebody or don't like somebody else. We have to look at the evidence, and we have to look at the law and how it applies to that evidence. And the law says the things we have to consider, whether special conditions or circumstances exist that are peculiar to the land or structure involved. This is a property that was not part of North Canton when this structure was built. And there was a permit granted to put a garage in there. We don't know why that permit was granted. The code may have allowed it at that time. There may have been a variance, but it was allowed by the city according to the evidence we have seen. The character of this neighborhood has houses and structures that are close together. There are other two-story structures in this allotment. I go through it often, so I've seen this. So I'm not sure the character would be substantially altered, although this would probably be one of the larger houses in the neighborhood, if not the largest. So that's a consideration. Narrowness, shallowness, and steepness. Whether the property will yield a reasonable return, or whether there could be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. There can still be a beneficial use of this property without a variance. The personal situations of the applicant are not things we consider very often, or that's not something we can really consider very much. But this will yield a reasonable return. It looks like the property would be improved. It does look like the property could be improved. There's a lot of work you can do to make this better. If you've got cars sitting on the driveway on blocks or without tires, and I don't care, I don't want to hear whether that's true or not. But if that's the case, I would suggest you do something about that, because no neighbor likes that. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment. I don't see detriment as a result of this variance being granted. I don't see a substantial character, substantial being the operative word here, or the essential character being changed, substantially altered, and whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, or trash pickup, that's not a problem here. Whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of zoning restrictions, he's testified that he did not know of the zoning restrictions. Those zoning restrictions weren't in place, in fact, when his grandfather built the structure or bought it. But the other thing we have to consider is 115903 and 115904. This is a non-conforming property. You're looking to enlarge it. That's a serious issue. The one thing I would say is we're not changing the footprint of the building. We are adding a deck and the stairs. I consider that a minor encroachment on the non-conforming use, if an encroachment at all, depending on how you read the ordinance. So those are my thoughts at this point. I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say.
I have to default to 115904A. And in that, like, the request for variance is substantial and essentially doubling or more the square footage of the home. I don't need to go any further than that because it's so substantial. It's not the minimum required or the minimum to achieve the goal. Which is why I asked for the clarification. Thank you.
That's fair enough. Anything else?
I thought it was a creative way to get the needed room they wanted by going vertical rather than horizontal. And, with the care of an elderly father and children, it seemed a reasonable thing to ask.
I actually looked through the documentation because there was a question of whether or not this was annexed in, and so I was looking for some documentation, and trust documents, many items that were mentioned are indeed included, that there's an agreement to care for the elderly father, and that as part of their ownership, they're entering an agreement to do that. So I wanted to corroborate that. That's actually a document that's recorded with county recorder's office.
Yeah, I can respect that creativity to go up, being that lot, because I go back there quite a bit, and those lots are all unique in shape, location, and just around the bend, you go into Eastwoods, so it is a very unique area. Again, to talk to Brian, with the deck, that is kind of a completely non-existent situation if you compare it to going up to that double that square footage. So that is something we need to really look at. But again, that is a great use of space when you're looking to maintain the respect of trust and to maintain the care. And make use of property with that kind of postage stamp.
Yeah, I see what Mr. Hastings' point about the doubling of square footage, and that's a factor that goes against granting the application. But I think with the weight of all the other considerations we have, I don't see many problems with this, and just the weight of the evidence, I think, makes me in favor of granting the variance, and we have to make sure we, make a motion to approve. We have to make sure we say what we're approving. But that's really the variance that he is seeking is 115904. He wants us to allow that. The setbacks are what is non-conforming, but what we're really being asked to get a variance of is the language of 115904A. The square footage, that's a negative, but I think there are more positives that I outlined from, in those factors I listed are 117901C1. So that, it's a close call for me, but I'm thinking the burden has been met, in my view, which is my take. Go ahead.
Nothing else, ma'am?
The actual application, or at least what we have on our agenda, doesn't list 115904. Is that
So 115903.
right? You mentioned 1159.
But that doesn't mean the rest of the code is not.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're allowed to consider any provision that we find to be applicable. So do I have a motion, one way or the other on this?
Because of 115904, it is too substantial. My motion is to deny the variance as submitted. I can't get past the substantiality of that addition.
I have a second. If there's no second, then I'll ask for another motion.
I make a motion to approve the request for a variance for the property.
Okay, and the request would be to allow this addition to go in as planned.
Yes.
I don't know if we need to do any more clarification than that. I'll second that motion. So that, with that, we can have a roll call.
Mr. Zollinger,
Yes.
Mrs. Clevenger,
Yes.
Ms. Boyd,
Yes.
Mr. Mahalson.
No.
Okay, the variance has been granted by a vote of 3-1. So that item is concluded. Any other business to come before the board? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn with a voice vote.
Motion to adjourn?
What do you do about this now?
Second? All those in favor?